today, Lord. We just ask that you'd watch over the commission as they make the decisions for the county today, Lord. And we ask that you watch over our population in Linn County, Lord, that you keep them healthy and safe. And over all the county employees who are out working, Lord, that you just lay your hand over them, Lord, to keep them safe as they go about their business. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Don't have a big crowd here today.
Good.
I reviewed our minutes and would make a motion that we approve.
Get you to hold up just a second.
Hold on.
I left you all copies of the minutes from the Thursday meeting also, if you want to take a quick glance at those to approve them. Didn't have time to get them done and send them out before today.
You want to do a combined motion?
If you're okay with them.
I seen that.
I'll make it. How do you want to do this?
If you guys are okay with those, just a motion to approve the
I will amend my motion to
regular
include
and
these
special.
Okay.
regular and special meetings.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you just need one of these signed, David?
No, actually, I need
Oh.
Which is really nothing to do with what we
I
just
think we would
approved.
Yeah,
change.
that's the ones that were approved last week. Sheriff's monthly fee report.
Sheriff's monthly fee report in the amount of $7,237.50, and I'll motion that we approve.
Second, moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I have the bills.
In the amount of $367,317.86, and I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
On the agenda, I had put the county attorney on there at noon because he had told me that he had court and couldn't make it to Linn. I got a message from him this morning that he's not going to be able to make it, but he did send me his, along with his budget, his explanation, so you'll have it to go over whenever you're ready to get to that point.
Gary, you got anything right off the bat?
Nothing that requires immediate attention.
We'll go ahead and go on to AMR. Nick? Morning.
We had, this past week, had 26 calls to service, 17 transports. And I think next week we can bring y'all the monthly numbers.
Anything happening?
No, sir,
What?
I have a breakdown of like where the calls were at.
How was the holiday?
Holiday was enjoyable. We're back to kind of like our normal call volume. Like it's getting back up there. So it's nice to see everybody going.
No deaths, no nothing. Hundred
To
serious
my
injury.
knowledge.
Serious
Oh,
injury.
from like Fourth of July fireworks. There was a couple serious injuries, but nobody died in our ambulances.
The gentleman said there was a serious injury at Tanglewood, a boat accident maybe, or maybe, no, an ATV accident, I believe.
Yeah, nobody's passed to my knowledge. not to say when they got to the ER or like the hospital, later, but nobody,
Okay.
to my knowledge. Yeah, good. Just smile like that, Rick.
I'm always smiling. I'm a happy person.
My name's Nick. There was something I was gonna ask you, but I can't remember. Oh, Galen, did he have his baby yet?
Yes. 21 inches, 8 pounds, 11 ounces. Healthy.
Good, good. How long ago was that? A few weeks ago?
Last week.
Last week.
Was that a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Girl.
Good,
For him.
good.
He's doing a good job.
Have a good day. Kevin?
Good morning, gentlemen. Kevin Friend, Linn County Sheriff. Actually, we had a pretty good weekend. We had one serious injury that Commissioner Page had spoke about there. It was a ATV crash up near the Tanglewood area, just outside of Tanglewood at Gate 3. As of last night, that individual we understood was in stable condition but serious. So that was kind of a bad deal, but he was taken care of by emergency medical, and they got him to the city, to the hospital, and is living. So for our numbers, we have 21 total prisoners. We have 17 in-house, 4 of those farmed out. This past week, we had 143 911 calls, so that was actually down even from the week before, and our expectation was we would have had a lot more, but it was a pretty good weekend. So we had 338 calls for service. That was up probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 from the week before. So there wasn't anything really crazy going on there, but that's pretty much our numbers, and a pretty decent weekend, so don't have anything too substantial to report to you. Any questions for me? Thank you, gentlemen.
The accident up just west of Parker yesterday, was that,
It was fun and exciting.
was it just an accident, or everybody okay, or?
They're fine. They're probably going to jail.
Oh, yeah. Car accident is what it was?
Yes, sir. Get that concrete little mini bridge, just like what, half-mile west.
Yeah. Tear it up?
Actually, no, that other side still tore up, that last area, that side tore the car up worse than the guardrail, or the concrete, the old concrete.
Well, I heard it go out, and then I was headed west of town, seen it down there. I figured they didn't my assistance, so
I was impressed that Lexus held, like, there's no cabinetry, and they had them on 60 miles an hour. You know, nothing came inside. Quite impressive.
I saw Doug was here, but is he still around?
It's from Lacey City Hall.
Huh?
he's just.
I was done in here, I'll check for you.
I know that
Or
Tisha,
Jackie.
did she send you guys a message? She said she was working on cases and to call her if we need anything. Do we need to call her and get a report update on COVID, or think that's necessary?
Did Doug, did he mention if there was any increase or not when he came in this morning?
He didn't say.
Yeah, I didn't ask. I didn't think about it. Figured he'd be here.
Did he already leave?
Didn't receive a call.
Doug's working on documents, he said.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Doug is finishing up something that we've got our heads together on, and he'll be done a little bit.
Okay, we'll just wait. I think we're Jackie.
Jackie, can't believe you're this early. Can't believe you're up this early.
Jackie Messer, Public Works Administrator. Don't have a lot this week because it was a short week and we got a lot of people trying to catch vacation. That I think we got 5 or 6 out of the South Shop today on vacation. I didn't even check with North, just taking an opportunity to extend the weekend. We're still got the picnic tables we're selling. We're building lists and gonna set times. It's going pretty good. Just want to let people know, especially public, if they're interested in these tables, let us know. We'll work something out. We're working on the 3 price ranges, considering condition. We did have our safety workshop last week from KDOT. We had people from the schools, we had AMR there, we had, the sheriff was there, Doug was there. Mainly what they did, and I understand what they're trying to do, was they were trying to portray, we're doing all this stuff. I got some maps I'll give you guys here in a little bit. I forgot to bring them in here of they're still looking at it, and they were wanting to pick our brains to where the hot spots of accidents, even though they're doing accident reports. But they wanted to know other areas that we knew about that weren't maybe standing out through the documentation. So we'll see how that turns out. We're going to start crack sealing this week, probably in Lacine on Ullery to going north on Ullery. I think that, I'm pretty sure that's where they're starting, then they're going to move to Pleasanton. They got a little bit of trouble with trying to get the tack oil out, heat it up, and the long weekend. So they're not ready to call for oil yet, so.
So they're doing all of Ullery Road?
I think they're going all the way from 52 to state line, or county line,
County
going
line.
north.
And then are they also gonna resurface it or what?
No, they resurfaced that other section
I know.
by contract.
So they're just crack sealing, that's it?
No, I'm sorry, did I say
You did say crack seal,
chip seal?
chip seal.
I'm sorry, that was my bad. Chip seal, they're gonna chip seal that.
Okay.
We're done with crack sealing. So they're gonna chip seal what was crack sealed on that section, and then we've got about 10 or 15 roads that they're gonna do all through the county. Blue Mound, around Blue Mound, there's some around Pleasanton, so, but we're gonna start up there. Probably be up there the rest of this week and part of next week before they move to another location. I did want to talk to you about the equipment. I found 2 belly dumps that were our used piece of equipment. They're 2018s, and we've been trying one of them out. And to be honest, it's not mixed results for me. I like what I saw. I thought they did great. You're talking about hauling 20 ton or 23 yards as opposed to 10-yard dump, a 23. You're talking about 22 tons as opposed to 14 or 15. So we can take one truck and carry as much as 2 loads. It doesn't work everywhere. It doesn't work on the hills and curves, but we have our end dumps for that. But the straightaways, the 2 guys that were working with it the other day, they said once they got the hang of it, of how much to open the doors and what speed to go, that it was laying it down there very nicely. They were pretty.
How many people got to operate or see it in operation?
Only 2 or 3, because they were all on other jobs. The reason I say it's mixed results is because some of the people are still resisting change, to go to a different method. I know, for example, the foreman and mechanic down here don't want it. They think we can just put another wheel on the dump trucks and pile them higher. I'm convinced they are a benefit. I've talked to the other counties. I've talked to the operators of these. I mean, Kurt Whitaker, for example, operates 18 of them. And he basically said, you're nuts for not running them because you can carry so much more.
And just go over the purpose of it. What advantage do you see to using those because of the travel time?
Travel time. Instead of sending 2 trucks, you're sending 1 truck. Here's the one. You're sending 1 truck instead of 2. So by the time you calculate out, and I meant to do this, but you kind of caught me before I got finished with it. If I can carry 22 yards in 1 truck, or 2 trucks carrying 10 or 11, I can, if I'm doing an area with a lot of work, that 1 truck and that equipment operator is somewhere else working. He might be in a boom mower, he might be digging ditches, he might be putting culverts in, but the manpower savings are pretty significant.
What about the rig to pull it?
We do have, the 2 semi-tractors we have are tired. They probably would have to be replaced in the next 2 years, but they need to be replaced anyway. I mean, they're up there in mileage.
What are we using for now?
We
Just
use them to
hauling-
pull the equipment trailers.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all they're used for. So we would be increasing the use on them. Like I said, I watched them and I looked at it. I was pretty happy with what I saw. North Shop said, we'll try them out. We think, we want to see what they'll do. And Jason was pretty happy with them.
What about we have quarries at different places, we get gravel. Do we ever go from the furthest quarry because they don't have the right rock or anything like that?
We don't, we should, we could. Be really blunt right now, the stuff out of Cadmus is junk. And they're not willing to start making more till after the first of the year. So it is not high standard stuff. So
We still
actually,
buying it?
the only game in town right now. I mean, in that distance. I
I
mean,
got you.
same thing with Whitaker's. They said when we start doing our quarry operation, we want you to come and show us, and we have standards we're gonna give them to make sure we're happy with it.
What about the one up at Lacey?
The one at Lacine has good rock. So there are locations that we've gone that we've had a lot of trouble with. We've actually gone to Lacine and got the rock to take back here or to run to Parker. He was trying to run to Parker, but it just got too many hours doing a round trip with a 10-yard. So he ended up going back to Cadmus until that, and they're not going to start their quarry operation until January, or until that pile's gone. So we have standards now that we're going to put in place. I think we also even should look at contracts as far as instead of the way we've done it in the past, just go there and get it. I think we need to set contracts that it has to meet this standard, and we will test. And if it doesn't meet this standard, I don't know what you do, because they're the only game in town. We've got Ash Grove over in Missouri. We've been thinking about going over there, hauling out of there. But again, you're adding time. This is a way to,
But you should be able to work it out with them.
yes.
Yeah.
We gotta be one of their bigger suppliers, or their clients, huh? I mean, $1 million?
Again, part of it,
Even if it's not in a general year, yeah, I mean, maybe power plant or some big project took a lot of stone, but typically speaking, on the average, to a 5-year, yes, we would be one of the largest, if not the largest.
yes, and they are cognizant of that, and they said, we want to work with you. So they are talking to us, and we're working with them. But some of the, like I said, Cadmus right now is just not as good as the other two. In fact, when we went to do surface rock for the asphalt companies, I talked to Coastal Oil, and Coastal Oil, I said, well, I know Byington used to have you test the rock or do samples before you did your operation. You came in, he said, yeah, well, where are you getting your rock from? I said, well, probably Centerville, the 4 choices. He said, well, 2 of those we don't have to test because we know they're pretty good rock. The other 2, we got to come out and test. So even the other outside vendors are seeing that there's issues and are testing, because that affects, if there's too much dust in it, which that's the problem. There's too much fine particles in it.
Does their per yard price fluctuate a lot
It
throughout the year?
keeps going up there. Ever since Wade sold out to Mid-States, Mid-States goes up twice a year now instead of once a year. So we're seeing 2 price increases a year. Whitaker follows suit.
Yeah, it'd be ideal to get on a contract, wouldn't it?
Yes, well, I don't know if that, we have to research it. I don't know if that will help. I hope so, but I think the last jump was $1.40 or something a ton. So it's going up. So anyway, like I said, that's I think those are good prices. I also asked Kurt about this one particular unit because I know he tried it out for a couple of weeks. And he said it was a good unit, and I asked him what he thought of the price, and he thought it was a good
Are
price.
you wanting to buy it now, or are you wanting to put it in next year's budget, or what are you wanting to do?
I'd like to buy 2 of them now.
How does it fall in your budget?
Well, that'll come out of special equipment, and we have, that's more than adequate. Plus, we have not used any capital outlay this year, so I'm working on been working on a spreadsheet as per Rick's request to see what long-term and how we're doing this. The problem I'm running into is when I worked for the Park Service, it was pretty easy to do an equipment replacement plan because you knew that truck at 75,000 miles was going to be replaced. 75 or 7 years. You knew it was going to be replaced. The reason that makes ours so hard is we drive them into the ground and they're pieces of junk before we replace them. So we don't have the same standards that we work under. I mean, we got some that we've gotten rid of, and we've weeded out 3 or 4 trucks that we didn't need. We're reutilizing them in different places, trying to make sure there's no duplications. And we've been going down in pickup trucks, but we're at a point I don't think we can keep going down anymore. And I did have in 2020 budget to replace 3 that I'd requested. That
3 dump trucks next year?
no, 3 pickup trucks
Oh.
this year.
What will be your, I guess, when you're doing that, maybe you need to set a standard of, like you just said, yours was 7 years, 75,000, maybe you should come up with an idea of when trucks should be considered rotated
Yes,
pickups.
because we are driving them till
And
they're.
Mike has talked about earlier on the road graders, certain amount of hours that you should consider,
We've
trading in.
started that.
Yeah.
The big dump trucks and the graders was easy. We've gone to a 10-year rotation on the graders, 1 a year for 10 years to try to get to that 10,000 hours. And that falls in what we're doing. Right now, we have, I think, 2 or 3 with 12 or 13,000 hours, which are over what we're trying to do. But the fact in 2016, in August, we bought 3 blades at once, which threw out any rotation, because those 3 are going to come up and hit their 10,000 hours at the same time. So what I've told the crews and what we've been doing is, and they've been doing really well on this, I said, we need to replace a blade. I found one, it's a used one. We've been buying used ones too and been saving considerable on that. I mean, somebody breaks them in and they still have a lot of hours left. And I'll say, who needs one? What's the highest hours? Well, one of these has 14,000 hours. Where is it? That's how we've been doing it instead of, well, he gets one, then he gets one, he gets one, then he gets, no, we're actually looking at the mileage, the hours, and the maintenance, and
Sure.
replacing. And the dump trucks, we're doing the same thing. This year we got 2 at once, but we really didn't. It was actually purchased back in last year with the intent was one was this year's replacement and one was last year's replacement.
Hey, Mike, does that sound about right? 10 years, 10,000 hours?
Yeah, that seems to be the average. It's probably generalizing by saying they're all gonna be at the same time, but they're gonna be close, and one of them may have 85 instead of 10, the other might have 11.
Right, right.
You just gotta have to kind of keep up with it, what's over the most hours, and move them. The general philosophy of it's perfect, it's not a science, but I think it works.
One joker in the deck, which in 2026, well, actually 2026, 2023, do my math. We know I can't do percentages, so let me do the rest of the math. We have those 3 John Deeres that were purchased in August of 16, blades, have a 7-year buyback. At 7 years, we're guaranteed a certain amount if we replace them with new.
That's why we bought them at like,
We haven't been doing that. They've done that every time, but it was never done. Because everybody, I think what happened was there was not consistency, so no one remembered that they got the buyback on it. So at 7 years, we need to look at those three, and if they give us a guaranteed 150,000 when we can't get more than 50 or 60 from them, we might ought to. But the problem is we bought three at once, so that's going to be a big bill. So as we get closer, maybe we can stagger it, bank some of the money in equipment replacement, so we can get three at once that year. But that's a couple years down the road.
Is there a caveat that you must buy another tractor? I mean, I assume.
I don't know. I haven't seen that. I've been trying to find that
I assume
contract.
the marketing of it is we will give you a guaranteed buyback as long as you use it.
I remember all that when it was between Cat and John Deere, and it took a while to figure that one out.
I think part of the stuff there was some operators who had been taught on a certain machine.
Right, at the time it was.
They
stick
wanted
or
the old-
steering.
And Cat was trying to phase out the steering columns and go with the joysticks, because if you talk to the operators that have been using them, they don't want the wheel back. But now Cat's gone back to putting small ones in there because they were losing such of the market, because there was too many old timers out there that didn't want to do it.
Pilot controlling, but yeah. Hey, Jack, what tractor were you pulling this end up with? One of ours, or?
One of ours.
So you've got it set up, it's got an air gate, you got
Yeah.
that an auxiliary valve where you could open it.
So, but you said it's pretty wore out though?
Both of them are.
Well, I mean, so what are we gonna be paying for 2 new rigs in the next 3 years?
What I did is I put one in 2021, or one 2020 if we can find it in special equipment, and then one in 21. I put it in next year's budget. I estimated it somewhere between 120 and 140,000 to replace it.
What about the dump trucks? What do you got on that in the next 3 years?
One a year, and that's 185,000 if we buy the entire thing. Another thing that's sticking out there in the future that we might look at, which is going to affect some of this, is everybody's gone to the liquid instead of rock salt. So that'll be something as we get further down the road. Do we want to look at our, what do you call those tanks? Can't remember the name of the tanks. But you use the salt, you mix the salt in.
Brine tanks?
Brine tank, that's right.
So we can't eliminate anything from our fleet, we just gotta add, so you just want to add this, not
Yeah, we're getting to a one-on, one-off deal. We did eliminate, since I've been here, eliminate, not replace 5 or 6 dump trucks. Because we had a fleet of small ones that were not being used but once every 6. When you have to jump it every time you go to use it because it's sat so long, I don't.
So
think
why couldn't we get rid of 2 dump trucks if we're buying 2 of these? That's a good point that I didn't even.
Plows,
think. That's the only
salt
reason.
equipment, yeah, during the winter.
So there's kind of a disadvantage too to this. You're adding to the fleet.
We are, but we're also taking a lot of miles off those trucks and should extend the longevity of those trucks. I mean, there are days, and we use them, also, we have to use the dump trucks for asphalt, chip seal. We can't use the belly dump for that. Like I said, it's not a real simple question. For the hauling, the amount of gravel we've been hauling, yeah, they're
But do we anticipate to keep hauling that much gravel? I mean, is it, I guess that's a hard question.
I don't know. I think we've hauled more in the last 2 years than the previous 10, easily, the previous 10 years.
Have our road requests gone down as far as?
About the same.
So do you think if we get our ditches up to tip-top shape, that we'll still be hauling that amount of money
Yes.
of gravel?
Yes. Because ditches, if we were doing the ditches, they should be cleaned every 3 years, every ditch, once every 3 years. We're not to that rotation, but we're constantly cleaning ditches.
Yeah, I saw a crew out doing it. It looked good.
But I think it's going to take more of an effort. Now we're getting to the point in time of the year we can do it because it's dry enough, but now chip seal is going to take 5, 6 trucks a day. And sometimes we have to park blades to put the driver. That's the reason we require the blade operators to have a CDL, because they have to get out of the blade. Like right now, I've got, I think, 5 people on vacation down at Harry's shop, so we're having to pull people out of blades to get in mowers, because we're trying to run all the mowers. Because now they're finally,
Where are we at on the motors?
pardon?
Where are we at on the motors?
They're all running, as long as I got people to run them. They're all up and repaired. But for a spat of time there, it was crazy. It was like you look at it, it breaks. But we're back to running all of them. Some of the operators were really good about when they get to areas pretty well caught up, even without being asked, they'll jump into the boom mower and start running the boom mower. I think you saw that down on 600 Road. That's Tom felt his roads were in good enough shape, jumps on a boom mower and starts working it. That's one of the ones also that's on the, was 2020 to replace that boom mower over there. There's stuff on the budget request that I put in there that I like to analyze it at the time and see if we really want to do it. Like, for example, and I made it, and probably should have gone the other way. We had in the budget to replace one of the spray rigs, but I wanted to try contract spraying, so we didn't replace it at the time. But now I see that we need to go back and replace the spray rig. So I'm trying to fluctuate.
Did you only get one company? I know we were just all over the map this morning. Did you have more than one company bid that job,
I sent it out to 10 different
and
companies.
just one company bid it?
No, there were several bid it, but that company was lower by far. Not by far, but through
So do you want to try another company, or do you want to, what do you want to do?
I would rather our people do it. I also I called the guy in Miami County who was doing it. I think it's mixed, but if we had the right personnel, I think we're better off if we have the right personnel. Did advertise that one without experience required, that we were going to train our own. I've already talked to Miami County about taking somebody if he doesn't have any experience and working them, training them, helping. We still have Matt down there who is trained as well, but those are still open right now, taking applications for that. So I think the company that sprays for Miami and for a DBI out of Colorado, sprays for Miami, sprays the state contract, their bid was like $208 an hour to spray. Their first time they did it was $137. The second time, when I went back and said I want to clarify, there were some questions about providing chemicals. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page, so I'm going to send it back out. They came back with 208, and then the other company stayed the same at 130. But I found out why. They weren't exactly doing what they were supposed to. They were trying to cut too many corners. That's the reason we cut them and said we're going to go back and spray. We've gotten most of the county sprayed the first time through, but now the next wave is going to be Ceresia, I think, and then Johnson grass, Ceresia and Johnson grass. So we have 2 more runs.
It's already here.
Pardon? Yeah.
It's blooming now, baby.
Yep. Well, and then the one company with the state, DBI, they sprayed too soon. We started a little late. They started too soon. I was down there on 31, and I thought it was a forest on the state highway down there of thistle, because they sprayed too soon. So there's that fine line of too soon and not soon enough.
I hear you.
We were a little bit late because I thought the contract was going to do it. I should have let our people go out and do it, and then just met in the middle on that. But I kind of had this vision of a professional operation rolling like a steam engine through there, and it wasn't.
I haven't heard any complaints about cost shares this year, so have there been any problems?
We had some questions, and I'm going to call the state on that today. One of the questions is, I haven't had any complaints either on cost shares, because we got it pretty well. A couple of people wanted the cost shares right then and there, but we said it might be 24 hours till we get it to you, because the person out spraying goes back to the shop, does the cost shares and sends them out. We're not stopping and running to do it like we did in the past. That's the reason why we had 2 trucks and only ran 1, because we were running cost shares. The big cost share question that's coming up, should there be a maximum that the county invests in these cost shares? Because some of them are coming back $1,000, $1,200 for the share. So, and I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm gonna contact the state and the Miami County, he's a president of all the noxious weeds in the area, the directors. There's like 7 or 8 of them in a group. And I'm gonna talk to him today and ask him how they handle that. Some of them told me that they put limits of 1,500 is all the county would make up to stop these huge bills. But I've seen a few go through there. I got one right now that's sitting there for over $1,000. But then again, if we're spraying noxious weeds, I don't see the issue. But I want to research it some more. I don't think I can speak well enough on it until I do a couple of phone calls and ask some of these other operators how they're doing it, directors how they're doing it.
Where are we at on our weed director?
On the what now?
The weed director?
We have a few more days of openings. I had set a specific time we would take applications between these such and such a date, so we have 4 or 5 internal applications to look at.
Okay.
A couple external too.
So is our guy that's in the spot right now, is he being, I mean, are we looking at maybe putting him as the weed director?
That's
Or is that,
personnel that
No, I would say, Gary.
I would
It's a
rather not
personnel
talk
question.
performance out in here. I mean, he's doing fine, but as far as the plan for putting him here or there, I can't speak to that here.
Right. He's not back yet anyway, so.
There was a concern raised earlier that when people use a lot of previous years, and people use a lot of chemical, was it truly being used for noxious weed, or is it being applied to ag fields or, whatever purpose? And I don't know, and I've never even looked into the usage and who's getting water and anything else, but there needs to be some accountability of where the materials are going.
And that's truly one of the tasks for the director, supposed to be going back behind and checking some of these, doing spot checks. And that's something, the state also checks on some of these too. They do like 10% a year of our areas. So that's something we're very aware of and need to be looking at closely.
Okay. I know, and as far as the property we have leased from the power plant to operate our park on is heavily affected with trees for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know about, but you're right, there's just there's a good timeline that when you, or a narrow timeline that when you get, whether it's Johnson grass or it's musk thistle or it's 3Cs, and there was, what is it, the yellow noise, something that's invasive weed is coming at us. Anyway, it's getting worse, but there's just a timeline where you catch it before it seeds or it blooms, and
Yeah.
you know.
Right now, we're also getting caught up there with a gentleman who has a lease is going to start cutting hay eventually, and we have to have a time frame in between. But I would expect, and we also don't have, it's dry enough now, but we did not have off-road equipment to get out there and spray it. They used to have a little four-wheeler for it, and one of the weed directors didn't like it, so he didn't use it, and they got rid of it, and now the last 2 weed directors have wanted one, so I did put in the budget to get a side-by-side this year. But then again, I hate to pay full price for something used so little. I'm trying to find a better option. Haven't found it yet, working on it.
You know, it's always good to point out problems, but if you like to be the person to bring solutions with them.
Yeah.
And sound like you're on track. You got to get the asphalt, you got to get the weeds, you got to get the ditches. you know, pretty soon there's just these windows that you get to work in, not accounting for weather. So, anyway, I'm not trying to be the guy that.
Yeah, well, I
brings the problem.
understand,
I've always tried to work with your own solutions, I think you know that, but anyway, yeah, it's bad, and I would see where some sort of ATV would be much better than taking, like, the philosophy of the fire equipment. You know, you don't take these big heavy trucks off-road and, you know, you need equipment to get where you need to be, so, but anyway.
The
yeah.
problem's not only in the fields now. Now it's all in the woods and around the woods everywhere we mow. So I would say it's gonna take a huge concerted effort to try to get ahead of that, because what do they say? If you start trying to address Sericea, it takes you 12 years to eradicate it from an area. If you treat it every year, it takes you 12 years to get it off. And I don't think that's wrong, because I know on my place, I let it get started, because I didn't know what it was. When I first moved there, I'd never seen it, didn't know it was a noxious weed. Yeah, it looks good vegetation for the critters, I don't care, but it got started, and now I've been spraying it every year for 5 years, and every year there's a new area that I have to go through and get it. So I think the park's gonna be a huge effort. So,
It's everywhere. You know, it's duckweed, you know, there's a lot of things going on. A lot of ground got put into CRP. Picked up Cereces. And, you know, it's illegal to transport a bale of hay that knowingly has noxious weed in it, but we all know that's about most of it gets transported. From being a kid where we were hired to go out and pick or cut cucumbers with a corn knife in bean fields, and now you're out here and we've got all these chemicals, and you know they're less effective. You see the pigweed growing and the mealtail and everything else going all over. It's tough to control it with weeds because they've developed immunity to it. But I can tell you, them old timers, boy, if there was any shatter cane or Johnson grass, is pretty much what it was. It was in the they had that cut out of there for it, you know, before it got spread. Well, now it's,
yeah,
I mean, it's just everywhere.
and lots more spraying this year of fields than I've seen.
You don't think about it, you go mow a little pasture with a bush hog or a disc vine or a mower, and then you run over down to this other one, and there's nothing around there. 2 years later, you're looking around, you've seeded it from one to the other across the deck of it, and it's virtually everywhere you look. Anyway,
So we owe you an answer on these dump beds, right? You're wanting them?
How long can you, I mean, do you have to have, are they holding that price for a certain amount of time, or what do you?
Well, they've held it for about a month. They'll hold it for another week if you need another week to think on it. I think it would be a good move, but not everyone agrees. So that's the reason I try to give every fact out there. And I think that it would take miles off those dump trucks. I think that for the right jobs, we would haul a lot more and save some time and effort. All the other counties that I talked to, they wouldn't give them up for nothing. They're pretty satisfied. But there are jobs out there, we're running 3 dump trucks to keep ahead of it, to try to keep ahead of the plate. We would save a lot of manpower. These things are about 55,000 new, and you can see that those being 2 years old are considerably lower than that. So,
Is that the only thing we can haul with it? I mean, I guess some dirt or something we need to move, but that's pretty much it, the gravel, right?
pretty much, because you're gonna get caught up in those. I guess we could haul our own salt with them. I don't know if we'd save much money. All the salt bins are full, so.
I think when you got ready to unload that, it would be a bit of a problem. And typically, these things are designed to spread at a speed. You kick them up to what, 10, 15?
They run on a belt or something?
No.
No?
There's just a set of gates that open up,
Just
and
open.
that material out. If you go too slow, it builds up a big material.
Down in the middle.
And then the duals, the tandems have to run over top of it. I have never operated one of these because I've never had the need for it. One of the guys that I've contracted with for years actually hauled a bunch of material from Missouri, from the townships, and he had a couple. I want to consult with him, but he was impressed. Yeah, you've got a longer range, you carrying more material, I mean, it's a garden shovel or a shovel, or go get a backhoe or an excavator, you know, it depends on the task at hand. You got less moving parts on something like this.
The gates open by air, they're not hydraulic, gates are opened by air off the tractor.
Yeah, they're just a set of air cylinders that open and spread those gates, with nothing in the air, there's less overhead hazard. Going through our losses to K-Camp, Dave sent out here just a couple weeks ago, but anyway, you're gonna have less overhead that when you get into a tree limb or a power line, and it's happened, you probably had it happen. to you.
One a year, we're taking down one power line a year.
Which is not bad considering what we're doing, which typically is a minimal expense, but there is a danger there, and I've had to tip at least one fairly new dump truck to back up on its wheels since we've been here, so there's those less hazards, but I don't see any way that you're gonna, like you said, you've gotta have winter use, you gotta have asphalt use, you gotta have spot use. I gotta have a load of gravel here, it's in a pile. This is not a piling machine, it strictly has one function, and do that. With that, I would probably be a little more conservative about, let's try one, and see if we like it, maybe. The second part of a better tractor, and we had this dialogue a few years ago, and I don't wanna get into a big old deal, but, we had a better tractor. I personally don't believe we need 2 or 3 end dumps or low boys. I think, I don't know, over the years when we've had this whole territorial thing going on, we had this equipment that was in, all district equipment. It was, the excavator and some things like that. Well, we basically had an all-district move. We brought Jack on and said, manage this. We're on 2 or 3 different continents here. We're our Linn County, and this needs to go. And you could reach to it, but it was, oh, you're not using my low boy. I'm using this low boy. I'm not. To me, this is an all-district shared piece of equipment. But yeah, I personally believe you've got a pretty good low boy. I know they upgraded it. But the second purpose for a tractor would be a walking floor trailer that we could haul trash in to Arcadia, same philosophy you just talked about. You're hauling a lot more cubic yards instead of taking them down here 10 yards at a time with these trash trucks. What's it mean to get them in there? You're gonna have to dump them and push them into it and compact them, haul them to Arcadia. But that'd be a secondary use for that tractor, road tractor.
Well, the one we have is the newer one. It's not quite as bad as the one from up there. I've already heard the landfill saying, we want that. If you replace it, we want it because it's much better than ours. So it would be this flow, hand-me-down flow that we do. It would probably go down there for them. They haul a lot of recyclables up in Kansas City. And
I think it's a time to address it. We're in a budgeting cycle where we spend it in this year right now, but it's going to cascade into the budgeting crunch that we're into right now. But I think I'd like to, if we're going to take that, you're going to have to bring those dumpsters to the transfer station, Prescott, dump them in a facility, and then put them into which is a little bit of you can't just dump them on the ground. You've got to put them in a containment, probably a loop house, and then back that tractor off the back of it where you could load over into the back of this, into this walking floor system and then haul it. But I think it would save you 3. I mean, if you look at the tonnage that go down there, I think it would save one of those placed into a walking floor semi-trailer at Arcadia, which again doesn't have to be lifted. You just walk it out the back and go on.
Are you talking about the one that had a little flap that hangs down?
Yeah, and you just walk through, but you could probably compact 3 and 4 of those compactors into one of those trucks and place properly and haul to Arcadia and save 4 trips down there with the truck. To me, it's kind of the next step of where we're going. I don't know that we need 2 of them, but I think you're probably gonna want a better tractor. You're gonna want a shared tractor that, I mean, it's probably gonna have to go to Arcadia once or twice a week. You put a guy in there that consistently runs that truck and he's got a volume of rock to get hauled or do that. But it's not a stockpiling trailer. You can't take this out there unless you spread it and then take a loader and gather it back up, because you're gonna need some length to do that. I'm not saying you gotta be running 30 mile an hour to cover a quarter of a mile or 600 feet with a trailer load of rock, but if you're gonna spread it and lay it down and not work that blade to death to get that moved around or pick it up and move it, but if you're gonna like stockpile, like out here, like salt that you're talking about, you would have to lay that out very slowly. And I have watched enough of them work with that, they get a little, you gotta run over them with a truck, with a rectangular tool. So it's this deep, it's kinda hard to run over them, you know, the trailer's half loaded and you're up on top of them. It has a place, and I think we have a need. I don't know about two, might be a little aggressive for what I was thinking, but I don't know.
Do you have to have a different type of CDL to run that when you do a dump truck?
Just Class A,
You have to have a Class A versus a.
with air brakes and all that.
But yes,
We do, like I said, we do have the one, and we've been using it up there, trying it out.
10 or 15 mile an hour spread,
25.
25.
They said, like I said, they played with
That's
it.
a pretty good pace.
Yeah, they played with it, and they figured out exactly how far they had to open those gates at 25 mile an hour to lay it down there pretty. And they said they could do it. The first couple of loads, they had to have a blade there and straighten it because they were learning. But
It's a different world from hauling an individual rock from here to there. You got 2 or 3 links on a chain, your gates open this, and going nice and slow. Half the people you haul rock for, one's over here, some here, and some there. When you're moving material from the county, them guys open their gates up and they run, of course, they might be running 10 or 15 mile an hour and laying rock down, and another one right behind them laying rock down. Because you put it all here, now I gotta figure out how to get it up the road 600 feet, you know? So I think you've got some, what I've observed, you've got some good guys that can spread rock, but they're different needs, you know? I mean, you got 10 trucks there, you gotta cover a mile, you gotta keep them spread out.
So you're for one, Mike?
Well,
I'm just asking.
I'd
I'm
like
good with
to
that.
spend a week discussing this and talking about maybe some alternative, we go out and spend some money on a road tractor. I'd like to have some other uses for it that we could gain some.
Do we only have one lowboy right now?
No, there's actually 2 trailers.
2.
And to me, I thought that a little to begin with, I thought that was kind of redundant. I mean, we don't
What
move
do you
enough
have?
equipment around the
You
county.
have one Traco 963 and a big excavator. Is that really all we carry on?
Dozer, and we haul dump trucks on it when we go to Kansas City when they're broke down, take them to inland or somewhere.
953, I think, what we have a 63 in that.
963 and the 953 is at the landfill, and 963 Harry has.
Aren't one of them about to be replaced here pretty soon?
The 953 at the landfill.
So increase 3 more. We went from 15 and on Thursday up to 3 more.
Yeah, I guess we'll, like I said, we'll talk about it for a week or so.
Okay.
Just
And then I probably need
thanks
10
for all the
personnel.
research.
You need 10 for personnel?
10 for personnel.
Kevin, do you need anything?
Doug needs,
Doug's got a, thing here that he would like to,
a thing,
thing,
oh, thing here.
a resolution he would like to look at.
You read it over? What is it?
It's about that, relief money, that,
Oh.
federal money.
Go ahead.
We talked about it last week. You appointed David as the key person for the county that would receive the funds, be the person responsible for them. That is the resolution that we have to have submitted by July the 13th in order to be eligible for the monies. And Gary helped me, we got it worked up this morning, and
You seen it, David?
I just got a copy on email.
And this is allowing us, with the possibility of how much?
it is in that document. I believe it's 1.971
Yeah, I see
million.
it. Yeah. 536.
Is what the information we have indicates that we would be eligible to receive up to that amount.
Okay.
This is the Spark deal?
That is the Spark.
I
Funding.
don't want to read it all, but do you want to kind of, so everyone knows what we're talking about?
I'll let Gary do that. They sent a template, David sent it to me, and Gary. Originally it was sent to him. That is a template the state said that we needed to use in order to be eligible to receive the funding. We went in and put in Linn County, Board of County Commissioners, and/or other information as appropriate.
The money is used to reimburse the county for certain COVID-related expenses. They're generally listed on page 2 in section 2. Those are the kinds of expenses, it's not limited to those, but then there are some expenses that are not covered, those are listed in section 3. Then the rest of it just talks about the, basically the budgetary process. It does talk about the need to, in section 4, or section 6 rather, to ensure transparency. So the public has to be aware of this. That's one of the reasons we do a resolution like this, so the public is aware of it. So, I mean, but it's given us the chance to apply for reimbursement for COVID-related expenses.
It'll do two things. One, it will reimburse us for the monies we have spent from, I don't remember the date, it's like March, I think,
13.
March 13th through date. And then it will also give us the opportunity to send in projects to this group for approval to spend other funds. The thing I don't know about, it talks about December 30th for having everything spent or taken care of. I don't know if we can only propose a project that goes to December 30th, or if we could propose a project that would happen in 2021, because likely we will not be done with the response by that point in time. So there's some things that we need to get figured out, but they haven't yet, at least I have not seen the guidance that was supposed to be here last week sometime, and we've not received it as of yet.
There's
So,
also every likelihood that they'll extend that date.
yeah, I don't have a clue.
You know, I mean, if things are still royal, as they say,
So this will-
there's a likelihood.
This will cover every and anything in the county that, I mean, every department, I mean, is that,
Well, it'll cover the kinds of things that it talks about there in section 2, expenses for establishing and operating public telemedicine capabilities, payroll of employees dedicated to COVID-19 mitigation, COVID-19 testing and quarantine costs, COVID-19 related expenses of public hospitals or clinics, technological improvements to facilitate distance learning, improving telenetwork capabilities, grants to small businesses to reimburse the cost of business interruption caused by required closures, government payroll support program, unemployment insurance costs related to COVID-19. So it covers a whole lot of things.
Some of those expenses, the county has already incurred, and those would be handled as a reimbursement, as it has been explained to us.
Okay.
The things that are not already spent and eligible for reimbursement would be in the program that allows us to put a plan together that says, this is what we plan to do, responding to it as we go in the future. Here's what we've already spent. They will have to approve any plan that we put through in the future.
So if we wanted to do a big program, for example, to improve our telenetworking capabilities, we would put the plan together, submit it, say we'd like to pay for it out of this, and then they would either approve it or not, for example.
Correct. And we believe we'll have some ability to come up with plans to do a lot of things. We just don't know what those are at this point in time because we don't have the guidance. For example, we may decide it would be important to try to test 100,000 people in the county at $57 a test. This is what we're going to spend. Or if we decided we wanted to try to provide a test to everybody, we could put that together as a plan and submit it to them, and then they could come back and say, yes, we think that's a valid expense with your funds, or no, we don't.
In short, we use the template that they sent us to put this in place so we can receive some funding possible.
Possibly.
I'll make a motion to resolve 2020-14, or we
Second.
pass resolution 20.
move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
The difficult part is we've got to have these plans figured out, put together, and sent back to them, because on September the 15th, I believe it is,
You
any
can
money
sign
that we
it.
haven't got approved for spending, they will take back.
Now, this is separate. This doesn't fall into the category of the same thing we got from, what Jessica was dealing with, is it?
No, that's a different grant she's doing, yeah.
There is,
What
the
she's
business
doing-
part of, do we want to sign two of these to send an original in and keep one, or?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
The grant she's doing is specifically for, we're just funneling money through to businesses that were hurt by it.
I did talk to her the other day, and she, you know, is aware of this program coming, and the part of that could be for businesses also, so
Right.
she volunteered to be involved in some of that discussion and plans we get ready for that too.
Do you know if they put any guidelines out on how that money, or what the requirements are on it?
I don't know enough about it to really
On her
discuss.
program?
Or
Yeah.
On hers, yeah,
I can give you a copy of what they, if you'd like, I'll make you a copy of it. It's about 5 or 6 pages.
I've had a few people to ask me about it.
Well, she will be getting it out there the next week or so, I think.
We have a presidential disaster declaration that's covering COVID as well. As you know, it pays 75 cents on the dollar that we spend. Sometimes the state will kick in another 10%. With this program, it appears it would pay 100%. So it looks to me like it would be best to utilize this program to cover the cost that we've already spent at 100%.
And you've already got that money set, or the money, you've already divided that up, what we've already spent, right?
We can get that information fairly quickly.
The reason I say that is because we just went through that with the area on aging, where they granted the money and sent the COVID money out, but they gave them a drop dead date to spend by, and it wasn't very long. And
Well,
that-
and this is the
it
same
was-
thing,
It was
yes.
it was almost like you're wasting money to a point, because if you don't have your plan all together, and I won't say that they did, they was buying everything they could possibly
Well,
buy.
It's gonna be very difficult for us to come up with a plan to spend $1.97 million in less than 30 days, which is about what they've given us to do.
Exactly.
And we don't have the guidance to tell us how to start. That's the biggest problem.
It happens every time.
Let's pay for your overtime, won't it? So,
Yeah, it should pay for the overtime that's been spent. It should pay for, the health department, who has 2 employees that we've hired and are working all summer to do contact tracing. It should pay for those employees. Potentially, I don't know, I haven't seen the guidance, but maybe it will pay for David's, Kevin's, my time, Tisha's time, her staff's time that's been spent on COVID. Those are some things we'll have to figure out, but certainly it will pay for all of the supplies. You approved $10,000 for testing that we've been spending out of our $70,000 disaster account we had. It should pay for that. We've bought face shields, we've bought cleaning supplies, we're looking at trying to buy some sanitizer, all that stuff. We bought 10 phones and the equipment that Chris needed to set those phones up. I think that could be covered in with this. But again, until we get the guidance, we're not gonna know, but it could significantly help us to replenish that 70,000, the portion that we spent thereof on our COVID response, so.
Speaking of COVID, can you give us an update on numbers?
Tisha sent me a message.
Yeah, she said if you would call, or she will call in when you're ready, and she will give you an update. I don't have,
Either that, or she sent me her
What-
stuff in a message.
Okay, what you got,
ago.
David?
That as of Thursday, we've conducted 85 tests, 32 of those due to an outbreak in another county. There were no new hospitalizations, but we did have new positive tests, bringing our total to 18. 5 are currently active cases. And then she, in addition to that, said that last week's food drive had 180 vehicles with 548 people, that there's some food left, and she's reaching out to food pantries, vulnerable populations, and churches with the leftovers. And she did say if you needed to call her, that was fine, but that was her message anyway.
Yeah, I'm good.
See, I got a call on Friday, we were trying, I gave them your number, trying to get through to Tisha. I didn't have it in my phone, so anyway, we had a couple more cases that we were going to work with the health department about. And I think we were tested privately, so, which it looks like they're encompassed in those numbers. The last time we spoke on Thursday, so we got 15 then.
So
happened to the fire department?
Not to speak of, we've been doing well. I hate to use the term quiet because every time you say that in our services, things go awry, but,
I saw a trailer backed up on the truck back over here last week. Was that a test or was that them doing the,
Red trailer.
yeah, was that they doing?
that's the gentleman that does the inspections. He's been coming around and working those in as he has time.
And you've been well satisfied with that group, haven't you?
Yes, it's one individual, but, yes, they've worked for us for some time. Does a good job, doesn't overcharge. You know, getting mobile maintenance here is expensive any way you look at it, but he's probably half the cost of a lot of others that we've used in the past,
Is he from around here?
so. Drexel,
Oh, Drexel.
trained and certified to work on fire trucks, fire pumps. He doesn't work on engines, things like that on the big trucks, but the fire brakes, the fire pumps, valves, anything like that, he's trained to work on.
How about your trailer that you bought to refill, air?
It's working fine. It's in Prescott where we store it there in the Prescott station, and then we can hook onto it, move it around as needed.
And it has to get recertified every so many years?
It is 10 years on the bottles that are on it, and the new fill stations that we put in each of the stations are 10 years on those bottles.
So you're happy with it?
Yeah, it's working fine. We've not had any significant issues or problems with it. And to get it on a grant that paid for the majority of it was great.
Great.
Because
Yeah,
it's
good job.
95.5 on an $80,000
Did you
piece
take
of
that,
equipment.
do you take that on a fire if there's?
If there's a
gonna
big
be
enough,
for a
yes,
while?
if there's a big enough fire, we can take it right to the scene.
Okay.
As long as they get an upwind of the fire,
Yeah.
you can build air. Of course, it's got 6,000 PSI bottles, so we can charge, I don't remember, I had to look it up, but 30 or 40 bottles just as it sits, and then we can be building air and replenishing those bottles as we're using them. It's got explosion-proof containment on it so that we can safely fill the bottles. If something were to go awry on scene, it's gonna contain it, blow it out the bottom, the same as the new systems we have in our stations, so it protects our fire service. But yes, it can be taken anywhere we need to take it.
How'd you used to do that? Just get bottles filled and have them store them?
We filled them, they were stored. We did not have an explosion-proof containment over the years, but we also were working with 2,200 PSI bottles, not 4,500. So that's a little bit of a difference. The folks were just kind of sometimes putting them in steel pipes, doing things to try to help provide containment. We didn't have any OSHA-approved professional containment.
And the pressure difference is longevity of the bottle. I mean,
The bottles are good for 15 years. At this point in time, the bottles are good for 15 years, and then they have to be discarded and replaced. And that's something that was in your grant narrative.
Right.
The Cascade bottles, the big bottles, as long as they pass a test, they can continue to be used indefinitely.
as far as the longevity of the individual, you get a 2,200 versus a 4,500, I assume you're gonna have a lot more air to last a lot longer, where you're not having.
Yeah, they last about 45 minutes versus the others were considered a 30-minute bottle, but you're gonna get roughly about 20, 25 minutes out of one. And these are 45 minutes, so you got twice as much air. You don't have to come out and replace bottles. Biggest difference I've seen, and David can comment to it as well, but I used to go through 3 or 4 of the little 22.5 PSIs, and now it's one of the 45-minute bottles I'm ready to quit, so.
A lot of difference on the individual, on how they breathe and how long they last too. 'cause it-
Sure, huffing and puffing. Yeah.
Our last event
I
was,
could-
was
First time I went scuba diving, I sucked the tank down on me.
brush, grass fire, big deal. That was not probably the thing we needed to go get that portable thing to bring, because not probably anybody hardly was in wearing bottles because of the weight and the agility they needed to make that happen. But when you had the Pleasanton fire downtown, or had a huge structure, or even the Fort Scott fire here a while back, it was a wonderful piece to have. We had multiple alarms and lots of firefighter structures, and they're going for that kind of equipment. We had the arsenal of the tools to go in there and keep them in there.
When the drugstore burned, we actually brought the Cascade bottles from Pleasanton Station in the back of a pickup truck and filled everything we could because we're going through the SCBA bottles so quick. Like I say, they were 2215 PSI versus the 4500. So the bottle itself only lasts about half as long as what the newer ones do. But we still ran through many, many bottles on that scene.
One of the other things not even being talked about, all this equipment, you have to be certified and kept, continued education to keep certified, and then that will not only able to put this in there, because of the liability for the community, and that's just something that Doug took on and he took on, to learn how to do that and keep this equipment up and going, so, I mean, thank you, but before we were relying on other people to do a lot of those things.
You send the SCBA off, get it back 2-3 weeks later. Now we can replace it in-house, run it through a quick test to make sure it's working correctly, and have it back in service within hopefully 24 hours. We maintain almost all the parts that we would need, the O-rings, the different things. There's a couple of pieces that have to be sent back to the factory that we cannot work on, we're not allowed to touch as technicians. There's only 2 pieces in that air pack that we cannot work on. One of them is the regulator on the back of the pack that controls the air pressures and stuff. We're not allowed to touch it. It has to go back to the factory, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's a little piston that's in the face regulator that goes on your face.
Checks the air that you
That
exhale.
allows that air to move back and forth, and if that's not functioning correctly, that has to be sent back. Otherwise, we can fix anything that goes wrong with them,
Critical pieces.
so.
Are you getting a lot of volunteers coming to fires and stuff? Are you hurting a lot?
We're hurting. We have about anywhere from 30 to 50% attend training on any given month, and that's about the same people that come to the fires.
So, I mean, do you, even though people don't show up, I mean, there's guys that have been showing up for months, I mean, are they still considered a volunteer firefighter, or?
They have guidelines and protocols that they follow, they don't do.
Our station captains, that's the chief volunteer at the station. Jeff Wisdom is the captain there at Pleasanton. Jerome is in Lacine. But our station captains will keep an eye on that. They work with them, they talk to them. And if it gets to where they're not coming at all, and we haven't seen them for 6 months or a year, then those captains typically will either take them out of service or get a hold of us, and we work together to take them out of service. There's no point in having somebody that hadn't been here for 3 years, because even if they come, they're not gonna be able to do anything, they haven't come to training and so forth. But we work with our captains to do that, we just don't automatically kick somebody off. And then we're doing everything we can. The best technique we found so far is that message board and stationing it around a community to advertise if you want to be a volunteer, call this phone number. We've got more people calling us, checking with us on that than we have any other technique we've used. We put it in the newspaper, we've put it on our websites, we've done all kinds of advertising, and we've got very little response. But when we put that sign out, we have added people. It got flipped upside down in the storm that went through Lacine when the power went out here that day, that Monday morning. So we're in the process of trying to get it put back together and functional again.
That sign was it purchased by the road department?
No, that was purchased by the Northeast Region Homeland Security Council. So they bought and paid for it. They stationed one here in Linn County, which they've stationed one in every county that would accept one. So it's a regional asset that can be deployed anywhere in the region. It just happens to be stationed here, so if it's not deployed somewhere, we have the ability to use it.
As well as we're using for district advertised positions, and I think it's been fairly effective there as well.
Yeah, that's what we were using it up at Lacine, was to advertise a position with the highway department the day the storm went through, and it picked it up and threw it upside down on its top. So we've got a few issues that we're just working through, tore up a fender. These got parts ordered, but last I knew they hadn't come in yet.
But we used it last year with our advanced voting, setting up dates and times on
It's been a
there.
good asset for our specific community as well.
We've used it to recruit firefighters. Tish has used it to advertise some of the programs that she has done. David's used it, Road and Bridge has used it. So Chris and Kevin have been real good about moving it around. Chris programs it to whatever anybody wants, and it's out there and available. And as long as some other county hasn't requested it and it's been deployed for some emergency use, we can use it for anything we want. It's ours, it's here. We've got that light tower with the 20 kW generator in it that sits down, well, I think it's at Blue Mountain now because the air compressors in Prescott, but we've got it. It's a regional asset. The region provided that to us. We deployed it to Eureka when they had the tornado. I had to drive it to Eureka and then go back and pick it up. But anything that the region gives us is pretty much ours to take care of and maintain. And then if somebody else in the region or the state needs it, we work to get it to them, or they come get it.
What, animal disease stop trailer full of?
We have a stop movement trailer.
For what?
Stop movement. That's designed just to stop movement of traffic, whatever that traffic is. Say we had something here at the courthouse, we've got cones and bars that we can put on top of the cones to create corridors for people to move through. There's equipment that can, A-frames and 8-foot long bars that can be put across to stop movement on a roadway. It's just stopping movement for whatever purpose. There's 2 big trailers, one in Shawnee County, one in Riley County, and then we in Morris County have a trailer with about half the equipment the big ones do.
And it's to be shared, it's a regional asset, but let's say there's a county has a animal disease or something, they're trying to control, the spread of it, so they'll stop the borders, or at least to have the travel roads and say, hey, or whatever, you come home, you may, whatever, you may not be able to bring that animal or that stock trailer through here, or who knows what scenario. But
Yeah, and it's not just for foreign animal disease. I mean, it could be a tornado, it could be flooding, anything where we need to barricade something off, we have barricades. And any of the equipment the region provides to us, they pay for it, they buy it, they send it down to us. We just have to put a tag on it and maintain it, provide insurance for it. But if we're using it for something in our county, we don't have to deploy it elsewhere if it's already in use. If we're not using it at that time and there's a request, then we have to deploy it somewhere else.
Used quite often or no?
Some of the equipment's used quite often, others not so much.
our trailer, the trailer the sheriff department,
Command.
that we share, what is that? It's the
Command
incident-
trailer.
Incident command trailer. It's up in pretty good order, or?
We've got a little bit of work that needs to be done to it, but COVID kind of shut us down on working on that.
Is it being stationed at your shop now?
It's now at my shop, where the sheriff or the fire department, either one has access to grab it at any time it's needed.
And through grants for the health department, we have various generators that we have set aside for different events. The LEPC committee, which is Doug,
Local Emergency Planning Committee.
and I sit on, or usually about everybody out of every community is hopefully represented, if not well, but represented. We have equipment, we have equipment list, we try to keep and maintain a list. We get in down around Centerville, somebody needs a bulldozer to stop something or get something, or whatever, where there's something fairly close to there, or at least the potential to get a hold of it. I don't want to get dragged.
Jackie's picked up a couple of trailers very inexpensively, and we have the 2 generators, the old one from the sheriff's office, and then the military one that we bought, the 100 kW, they're now mounted on trailers. We're working to get some electric panels on there that you and I had talked about, but hopefully those will be very portable so that they can be deployed wherever they need to be. So we're making progress.
As well as Linn County bought a very nice portable generator with their sewer grant, and it's on that list, but it's set up to basically pull in anywhere and provide a 400 amp service, single phase, 3-phase, really diverse piece of equipment, virtually brand new. And I can remember when the Prescott nursing home, Prescott was down with some fire issues, and they were looking for big generators to keep the nursing home going. I don't want to get far down into it, but there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and stand up. And it's like any emergency, we can sit in this room for the rest of the week and come up with scenarios, but the one we're going to need clearly won't be the one we have. The equipment for it won't be the one we have. So anyway, there's a lot of planning goes into this behind the scenes that a lot of people don't not only recognize, but maybe don't even appreciate. I do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else?
I noticed that you gave out a little patch the other day when I was talking with the food drive. Do you give those to all your firefighters for recognition, or what do you do with those?
We got them and they were Dee was giving them to the fire service. We picked up some for emergency management. Obviously we can make shirts and things out of them. but to the people that came and volunteered hours of time, helping us with the food drive, we got them a patch.
Do you guys have anything specific you do for your firefighters that would, you know, I just think
Annually,
recognition would-
well, annually at Christmas, we buy them something. Sometimes it might be a ball cap, a shirt, we bought cups, koozies, keychains, just different things, pocket knives. We work to find something each year that's different. Last year, they got a coat, a little jacket. So we do provide them with a gift to say thank you at the end of each year.
The other part of, there used to be a program where your station could save up some money and do, you might want an air compressor, you might want something that's, I don't know, there's several different things. Is that still?
Yes, they can, if they have at least 50% attendance at training, get $100 that goes into their station account. So we pay them $100 to the station for their people to come to training. They just have to meet that 50% minimum, and then they can use that money for whatever they want. That's a practice that's gone on for 30-plus years. When I first started, it was $50. The commissioners had worked it out with the people on the department way back then. Rather than to pay them to pay each firefighter to come to the station, they would just pay them a lump sum for that attendance of training.
So you don't
once
pay
a month.
somebody to come to required training, and this is an incentive to get people to come, and if you have a good attendance, it's actually a cost savings to the county, but they put it into an account.
Yes, they have their own accounts, each station, and then if there's something that we don't provide that they want a special flashlight, or they want to buy a coat or a hat or different things, they can do that out of that station account.
I'm sure you guys already thought of this, man. I know it's a nationwide problem with getting volunteer firefighters in, but do you think there's any programs that would help, you know, get people to respond more? I mean, do you guys have any ideas?
We've visited with the commission in the past about some thoughts or ideas. The fire board's visited about thoughts and ideas. Here 3 or 4 years ago, the fire board actually sent a questionnaire out to the volunteers and asked them to fill things out, trying to get them to tell us what we could do to get more participation. Did not get a lot of responses back. We talked about if we would go to paying them to come to training versus just paying the station. Most of the responses we got back were leave it the way it is, we like it the way it is, but yet they still don't always come to training. So we've tried to come up with ideas, and doesn't seem like anything we do at this point is successful. But it's not a problem just with our department or our county. I mean, it's a nationwide problem.
Do you think I know you can't with the COVID stuff, but do you guys do like regular like barbecue stuff, like around your station, stuff like that?
The stations themselves, oftentimes will have barbecues, especially around Christmas time.
Well, I didn't waste all the morning, I was just wondering about everything going on, so.
Mostly COVID right now, unfortunately.
Thanks, Doug.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I did get a picture, someone sent me a picture of Blue Mountain down.
Blue Mountain dump.
Yeah, I forgot to have Jackie about that.
You want to open it for public comment?
10 minutes legal when convenient. And maybe before you start, but
Oh.
Jackie, what'd you?
You needed personnel,
10.
I think.
10 for personnel, and you needed
10 for legal.
10 for legal.
Do we have any public comment before we go into that? Pat, you got anything? No? Just hanging out? All right. Well, I'll make a motion that we go into executive session with Jackie for 10 for personnel and Gary 10 for legal.
Anybody else? I'll second it.
Move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
You see this ballot thing, is this kind of what you're thinking about too?
What's that?
Just ballot day?
About like that, yeah. Gary told me. I just told him mine threw it away. For, they see, just a survey. I don't know what the purpose was.
You wanted,
You want me to read that?
yeah, let's talk about this and,
We,
talk about it Thursday.
commissioners have, are gonna release just another little statement here, just emphasizing their position on the whole mask situation, just so they're clear. It's a notice to the citizens of Linn County. The Linn County Commission strongly urges each citizen of Linn County to take steps to protect yourself, your friends, and others from COVID-19. This includes practicing social distancing, avoiding large gatherings when social distancing is not possible, and wearing masks when you are in situations where you can't social distance. Businesses in Linn County are encouraged to require masks for their employees when they are dealing with the public, and to require customers and clients to wear masks when they come into your place of business. This small inconvenience is a simple step that can help prevent the spread of virus and can save lives. County Commission and County Health Department will continue to monitor the number of infections in the county and the surrounding area, and will attempt to provide information and guidance to the citizens of the county as the situation changes. So if you still want to issue that statement, you need just to have a vote to do so, I think, and sign it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things David had posted last Thursday was to make sure that if somebody doesn't want unmasked individuals in their business, that they post it clearly on their door, so that we don't have to engage sheriff's department out to remove somebody, let them know that you need to be here, you need to be in a mask, or no shirt, no shoes.
And
no
this is
mask.
all voluntary as far as businesses doing that, as far as people, you know, if you come to the business and they say you gotta have a mask to come in here and you don't wanna wear a mask, then don't go in there.
That's it. That's it.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we approve this, voluntary statement, for the citizens of Linn County.
Second.
Move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll post that out on our Facebook site and stuff too. And it really seems to be a good way to get the message out to people. We're getting a lot of engagements and a lot of hits on our pages, so I think it's been a good tool for us through a lot of this.
I saw Chris here, did you need some time or want some time?
I think he was helping Doug with something.
I do have the county attorney's budget and his explanation for his budget here, if you guys are ready to get into anything like that.
You need me for anything else, or you just gonna do budget?
I don't think so.
The only other things I listed on there was talk about building project or advisory election, and those have just kind of been standing things on the agenda.
Can we get those two questions put together? Remember we came up
I
with,
wasn't here when you, finally discussed that.
we did come up with a solution last week, yeah. Two questions, yes or no on each one,
Okay,
Straight to the point.
straight to the point, I guess, so to speak.
when you say two questions, you mean two questions on.
Per.
ten,
Yeah, two questions,
And then on,
yeah.
Like a yes or no per item?
okay.
With, I would say, on the win, we did discuss, if it was gonna be a yes vote, it would say, the question would be something like, allowing windmills to operate in Linn County, or however you put it legally with regulations, yes or no. And then the other one was, or no wind regulations, period, you know, yes or no. And then the same thing on the other one.
Will do.
Did you want one of these budgets?
Thank you.
Other other than the ambulance budget and the employee benefit budget, this was the last one that was outstanding. Those two I'm still holding off on. I'm waiting to see what we get on ambulance bids, and now that I've got everybody's budgets in, I'm working on the benefits budget, but that's still an ongoing process at this point.
Did you want to talk about, we don't need to talk about budgets or anything other than,
We are definitely gonna have to do some work over the next couple
Yeah.
of weeks to find places to make some cuts. Now, this money that's coming in as reimbursement through the Spark funds will help, because additional income will offset some of those expenses, but we're definitely gonna have to do some work this year to find ways to cut things down, because we're way over where we need to be right now.
He's in the county, right? He's in court?
Yeah, he told me he was in court, and originally he thought he might make it over here in time, and then it looked like we probably weren't going to have a marathon meeting today with what we had on there, so we didn't think he could, so he went ahead and sent me the information this morning. But I think he was tied up in court till noon. While you're looking over that, I will let you know the County Appraisers Association did get our notice up on their website
okay.
after we'll put it farther than that. Anyway, we finally got it on there. I have one email this weekend and another message that apparently came in after I left to come over here for the meeting Thursday that wanted me to call back, so a couple of people interested already.
Good.
I'll get back with them this afternoon when I get back in the office.
I got your email the other day about, what was that, Kurt? That you sent on there to Topeka? Was it, I think I emailed it back, were they looking for a representative?
Oh, well, the K-Camp board, it's the board I'm on.
Or what was that?
It's every year certain members on the board come up for re-election. So
Oh, that's all it was.
K-Camp has to send a notice out to all the member counties in case they want to nominate somebody. Like the position I have is not up this year anyway, but some of the others listed on there were. So it's just the notice they have to send out to everybody.
I wonder if he'll get out sooner than later.
Maybe take the same philosophy you did the rest of them, until we approve the budget,
Yeah.
and then whatever questions we'll.
Well, and we will, because we obviously got to work on some cuts, and then bring them over to talk about it.
I'll make a motion to tentatively approve the county attorney's budget at $355,395.
I'll second.
Move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
That's a $32,710 increase.
$322,685.
10%.
Well, this last one you needed, David?
Well, other than ambulance and employee benefit, which are ones I'll work on, but
When do we have the ambulance due? Is it in July, end of July?
it's pretty close to the end. That one's gonna be kind of a last minute, get it all together. I can tell you here in just a second, let me find the right file. Ambulance bids.
Now that we got majority, I mean, is it something we can start talking about, or what, I mean, how are we gonna?
I don't have anything prepared for you yet. July 20th is the date we set on the ambulance bids, so 2 weeks from today. And then I need to publish the budget the week after that, so.
Which means it can decrease from there, but it cannot increase. Correct?
Right. Yeah, once we publish, we can't go up. I did quite a bit of work last week on going through the salary lines of every budget, so I've worked up some comparisons on that. And I found some things that were off one way or another. Some of that could be explainable by things I don't know about in those departments, but I'll have some of that for you to look at, and I'll try to get this stuff out to you during the week, this week, so you can have some time to look at it before next week's meeting. So I'm gonna start combing through the budgets to see any questions that I have that go with that on other areas too, but really salary part's the only part I've dealt with so far on reviewing it. Some things that are a little up in the air, I mean, the appraiser position's one of them. At this point, we don't know who we're gonna hire, how much we're gonna pay them. I mean, I have a range that I can put in there, so I put some numbers in my comparison that I think would be reasonable, but until we actually get to the interviews and talking to somebody, we don't know where that's gonna go, so that's gonna kind of be a guess.
Any other budget discussion?
I don't really have anything else ready for you right now.
And you don't expect the benefits, I mean, other than we increase these positions, there's been,
Yeah, any additional staff is gonna increase benefits budget. I mean, you're looking
25 grand.
30,000 per additional employee. It just depends on which type of insurance coverage they take on how much that is. I know one of the other things I was gonna look at, and I didn't have time to get it done for today, was a comparison of like 4 or 5 years ago to now and how many employees we have. Because I think there's a pretty good change there. We've added a lot of positions in the last few years, and that's driving our costs up. But
SRO and bailiffs.
like I said, I don't have those numbers ready yet.
We've added a few positions. You've added a few positions too throughout the county.
Actually, one or two.
Yeah, one or two.
And,
We just restructured, we really haven't added any, we just restructured.
Really?
Like the Mel's position, we have codes now.
Mhm.
I don't think we.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the number is.
yeah, that'd be a good thing to have, I think, to take a look at, see where it is. And of course, the benefit package is, get these cheaper.
No.
Is there a way that everybody that we, or that gets funds from the county, that we can require them to come in and visit with us more than just budget time? And then share with us the way the money's being spent, stuff like that?
I think you can request for elected officials and say, hey, you know, let's talk about this, or whatever. I don't know, does that sound right? I mean,
Yeah, are you talking
Like the justice?
like Trico and
Yeah.
places like
Not
that?
really,
or-
that. I mean, just stuff that we have, like, you know, I don't know, just like the Historic Society, ask them to come in, visit with us.
Yeah, I mean, we can ask anybody you want to come in. I don't know that we can require them to, or, I mean, I think you might get into some issues if you're saying you have to, or we're gonna cut your budget, and I'm not positive you could go that route, but you could sure ask them, and I don't know why they wouldn't.
I just feel like if there's being money distributed, that they can be sure to come in and visit with us and tell us how things are going.
But you've got several outside agencies that we deal with that we supply money to.
checking on the, or he's gonna give us a few questions.
I think the biggest one we got coming up besides all the budgets is the ambulance. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk. Was it 954 or something like the last contract?
That's close anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. And that one, like I
But-
say, that's a pretty quick and easy one to insert into the budget
Yeah.
form. So, you know, I'd like to have all this stuff done earlier, but that's not gonna be hard to get that one in and see what it does to us before we publish.
When do we have to publish by?
Well, and some of that could also depend on when we're gonna have our hearing. We have to publish at least 10 days before we have the public hearing to approve the budget. Technically, the deadline is August 15th to have the budget approved. That actually falls on a Saturday this year. So I was looking at maybe August 17th and just going out to that next Monday to have the hearing. So with that, I would have to be published by August 7th, which I don't believe is a publication date. It'd be, let's see, if the 17th is a Monday, 1912, be the 5th, I think. It'd be the day after election. I'd need to get it published by then. So we could actually still make changes up till August 3rd meeting and publish that week. I'd like to have most of it wrapped up before that if we can, just because that's the day before election. I'm going to be wanting to get out of here to go work on election stuff. But I know it's not going to hurt us any in the overall budget picture to wait till the 17th to have the hearing. Now, that's also going to be the same day that we do the election canvass. So that would be another question on whether you want to tackle all that in one day or not. But if we want to have the hearing the week before that, then we have to publish a week sooner. So it'd be like the July 29th meeting would be when we'd have to, or 27th, whatever that Monday is, would be the date we'd have to know when we were going to publish. And I don't remember, Danny, what time, when did you take over last year? Were you here when we first?
April 1st.
Okay, so you were here for the budget hearing last year. Yeah, at that point, it would just be, we have to open a public hearing and allow comments if there are any on the budget, and then you guys can make your decision on. And I just got a message from Tisha wondering if you were still here, so let's see what she needs.
I thought that came out of something else.
Which one, this or this, rent?
Yeah. Hey Jackie, you might know, I've heard that somebody's bought the old rock quarry up there in Pleasanton. Don't know.
Oh. Yeah, no. I've heard that. I'd ask David.
Dave, on this right here, I thought this came out of something else.
looks like Tisha was really looking for Gary, and I told her he'd already left, so she's gonna call him. I don't think she,
Yes.
yeah, nothing for you guys right now, it doesn't look like.
So when people are contract employees for us, how does that work? I mean, do we have, how's that laid out?
Well, we have some different situations on some of them. I mean, if they're an employee, it's basically, we have some people who we consider contract employees, but they're not like an independent contractor, they're still an employee, so they get benefits and the whole bit as long as they're working enough hours or scheduled, contracted to work enough hours to qualify. But, I mean, well, Gary's an example, he's basically a contract type employee. Jessica Hightower is one. So, I mean, they're, from my side of it, they're just employees, they're just,
Steve Thompson, the appraiser, was a contract employee when he was here.
Yeah.
So when we hire another appraiser, it's probably reasonable to think that we have the same kind of relationship with them.
So we should, I mean, if Gary wanted, we'd have him in the office in the courthouse if he wanted it, that kind of, I mean,
Well,
does he get benefits and everything through the county?
yeah.
Dennis Arnold was here as an economic development coordinator, he was a contract employee.
Yeah, from my side of it with payroll and benefits, other than some of them having an actual contract document, they're no different than any other employee.
So they don't have like a contract, so you'll work this many hours in this year?
Well, Jessica would be one. On hers, we specified, I think, that we expected a minimum of this number of hours per week on average from her. And it wasn't 40, but it was, I don't remember without bringing it up. But, so we do have that kind of arrangement with some, but we really don't have very many people that fall into that category. And the appraiser position is a 4-year appointment, and that's closer to like an elected official run. So, I mean, there is an actual 4-year term for an appraiser, and I think we have to have a contract that goes with that resolution on them. There's nothing that says what has to be in the contract.
Went to you too.
Yeah, I got it.
You got that? Do you have an idea of what we're anticipating going up altogether on the budget this year?
If you took it at face value, I bet you're looking at a 5 or 6, 7% average. A lot of the budgets stay the same or small. Jack's increase and
0.9%.
are, and they both very, very plainly say, well, what do we gotta work on?
We got quite a bit of work to do on them this
We
year.
do,
But the difference being is Kevin is an elected official, and the president's of the law, and he's going to have to spend what he has to spend to run and maintain his office. Jack is an employee of the county, and we typically historically beat on his budget a little bit because he sees it.
yeah, we have a tax lid limit that we can go to, and with numbers I plugged in, which I just estimated a couple of those that I don't have yet, we're close to $3 million over that at this point.
So it's not possible not to cut the budget.
No.
I mean,
some of that's gonna be made up by some of this reimbursement we're gonna get too. And I have not put those income figures in yet, so that'll bring it down. Some of it was the way I submitted the contingency and windfall budgets, just to build them back up where they were, even though we've been spending some money out of them. I don't think we're gonna be able to build them back up that far this year, so we'll pick up some there, but there's still some serious work we've gotta do on the budgets to get them down where they need to be.
We're not really leaning on the reimbursements very much. I mean, I kind of can see that being a huge problem for us 2 years down the road. If, you know, if we allow a budget to be at a certain amount and we rely on this relief fund, and then come 2 years, we don't have that relief fund now.
Well, and that's the point where the commission will have to say, you know,
Money's not
it was up there because of that money's not coming in, it's gotta be cut. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, it is gonna help offset some of these costs we've had this year, which will in turn help our tax levy. But yeah, just because you hired 6 extra people this year to deal with coronavirus doesn't mean you get to keep those people when it's over. I mean, you'll have to cut back down. And that's not, you didn't necessarily hire 6 extra people,
Right.
just as an example. And there is nothing that says from one year to another that just because my budget went up $5,000 this year that I need that 5,000 again next year. You know, you can cut them back down.
So we have about 2 or 3 meetings between where we can get this stuff figured out, or we'll have a special meeting, won't we? Probably.
I mean, we can if we need it, but we have about 3 weeks to sort it out, maybe 4, depending on when we publish.
And this will be the toughest one I've been with so far. I know
This
Mike
one's
and
gonna be
Vicky
rough.
went through some really
Yeah.
tough ones and Herb, but this will be the toughest one that I've worked with.
We've been
Usually,
in pretty good shape the last few years.
Mhm.
That pipeline coming through, the increases in the power plant have really helped us out, but, and we're still up on utilities this year, but it's just gonna be a tougher season to get it down.
The scenario then, the values were working in the wrong direction, and of course, the economy was stale, and a recession, and it was, houses weren't moving, which wasn't driving the values up, and, who knows what we're gonna be into. But, we made a conscious decision to utilize that, if you will, windfall money to
pay off.
pay off debts and leases and any obligations that the community had, and then to store some money for events just like this, the downturn of the economy, so, thank goodness. Because you would have reduced and not done that, and then you would have been capped by the state on what you could increase. You definitely would be reducing a large volumes of services. You have to. I mean, you've got to work inside that box, period. That's where we are right now. And they're not bad problems. You know, there's not correction. We'll figure this out. It's like we're supposed to do. It's not the end of the world. We'll get through it. Figure it out. We've done it before. Probably require a few extra meetings on it, Dave, and you probably have to look at people's well. I don't want to tell you this, Jack, but here's what's going to have to happen in order to make it work. Like the old saying, you can always tell somebody what they want to hear, but that's just not their job, so.
Well, you know, one of those right off the bat that would help us out right now is if we actually get that money that we were supposed to get in the last year and a half on reimbursement for that storm.
Pushing it, we went ahead and sent an inquiry out, I know you're working on it, but when do you anticipate an answer to it?
This is the FEMA money from the big storm that,
Is that
the wet weather.
over $500,000?
Yeah, 650, somewhere.
Yeah.
But David, you look at that and David's grants and Tisha's grants that we've applied for, they won't come in until after the budget. So we get somewhere that we like in our budget and we approve our budget, whatever it is. And then all this money does come in. What's that do to us next year, the following year when we do budgets? So say on a best case scenario, we got $1 million out of the 1.9 million for coronavirus and the other grants some others that are out there that we didn't expect. We applied for, but we didn't have the answer, and then his grant for, FEMA and all that, and say they all come in and it's really happy and we're all cheering, what happens for the following year?
The money that we're talking about on the 1.9 million,
Mm-hmm.
that one to me doesn't make a big budget effect other than it's gonna reduce some expenses that we're already showing in there, because I will probably plug that in like we're gonna get it and we're gonna spend it. So there's no tax effect there. However, right now, we've already spent some of that money, so I don't have it in, and so it's gonna reduce a little bit of the tax requirement. But like the FEMA money, that's just some that should be coming back, so that could lower our levy, what, 3 mils, 2.5 mils, just with that coming in. If we don't budget to spend something, and we don't budget at all, money comes in, the money will just go into that fund and sit there till we figure out next year what we're gonna do with it.
Will that add into the tax lid though? Will that affect the tax lid?
Yeah, I mean, it's different.
I know,
Each one of
I
them
know.
is different scenarios.
If the money comes in and there's, you're long on the budget because of the grant that showed up, but you'll get the choice at the end of the year where we put all that money back in wherever. Fire fund's a little different than.
Well, fire's its own fund, road and bridge is its own fund. I mean, those, if there's reimbursements or grants, either one that come for those things, they're going to that fund. That's where it stays. Now, Kevin and I are both within the general fund, so we don't have a line that says, this is my money that I got in, our money goes into the general fund, but it helps the whole balance of the general fund. And there's some exceptions to that, because there's some things we have to track specifically, and some of the grants are like that, but.
Do you know how much of that money is reimbursement that we don't have to specifically spend within a certain amount of time?
I don't yet.
So I know, like on Doug and Kitchen, I know that theirs went up quite a bit just because of, figuring in for COVID. Would it be possible to take some of that refund money and put it in the account and say, okay, well, here, we can use this for, that unknown COVID?
Well, and it depends on what we can get in that plan that's approved, but things we've already spent, like the extra overtime that was paid out for this, the hazard pay, I think, is part of what's included, the way that looked. So we had, 4 payrolls in a row that we were paying an extra 10% to most employees. I think we can get reimbursement on that. So that's gonna bring our tax levy down, because I can show that money coming in to cover some we've already spent this year. Gives us a better cash carryover, which lowers next year's tax levy.
Cash carryover is an important thing, that's, and we've been well about building some reserve accounts, still being approved by the commission as they're being spent, but those reserve accounts are there and pretty healthy. It's like you have a savings account or a contingency fund that, something happens in your business. You've got a fund to fall back on rather than run the bank, or do something like that. And that's good to some level. I mean, everything in moderation, but those cash carryovers will help you. We had a large cash carryover from last year, it would help us tremendously right now. So, we'll get through this. I know things unsurmountable. We will. I mean, you've got what, 2.5 and what's Paul?
3 million.
3, and what's in contingency?
That was about 2.5.
So, I mean, I'm not saying we don't need to contribute to those because we do, but there was a time a few years ago when we were contributing 100,000 or 50 or 0, and that was a reason to account for where it was diminished. That was an easy thing to pick on, but I think you have cash reserves for a purpose. So, I really think, are you greatly concerned? I mean, I think it's going to take some work.
I'm probably more concerned this year than I have been in several years, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we're going to get it.
But it's gonna take some work to get it down this time.
Sure.
usually the last few years I could come in here and tell you that, hey, I can see already where we can make these cuts and we'll be fine. And I haven't found all those places yet.
There's gonna be some decisions to make this year. We'll all lean into it, we always have.
I know where I can get you some of it when we get started.
Builds character, brother. And gray hair.
What else we got to discuss?
I don't have anything.
Jackie, did you get a copy of that notice that they approved earlier?
No, I was just looking at, and asked if you would know. Thank you.
Mike, you got anything else? Oh, he wasn't. Kevin?
Jack acted like he had something else, I mean,
Oh, you did?
I thought.
Who's gonna answer? I'll go find out. Yeah, I've got the. Okay, you got it. Yeah, I think it's digital.
Yeah, but once I get over there and scan it in, I'll send it over.
No, he doesn't have anything else. Joyce didn't want to come out either.
It's okay to get done before noon.
It's like you're digging, dude. What? You don't want to go home? I'll make a motion, we adjourn. How's that?
Second.
Move and second, all in favor?
Aye. It's okay, man. You have to go on that honeymoon one day.
Just can do it on my phone now.
So what's new, Pat?
Busy, busy.
Busy, busy.